So all right. So what do you got this week?
Well, news wise, yeah, I've got one big story. That's it. It's not like.
Can you be okay before you start that story? Can I ask you a question, Billy? How did this? Because you probably talked about it last week, but I had a flight canceled, and so I couldn't make it. Who, if Vince signed an NDA with this lady, who ratted on her? Was it a friend?
Yeah, that's what they're being. See, I don't know too much about the ins and outs of that, but yeah, it's supposed to be a friend.
It says a friend was cold emailing people in the company.
Okay.
And so then the board started investigating it.
Well, let me ask you this, because isn't this? How come this is not extortion?
Because she already got paid.
I'm aware of that, but did she threaten to say something, and that's why she got paid?
No, I mean, they're
I'm wondering how this money, $3 million, for an affair. This just sounds like the Stormy Daniels Trump stuff where he'd be paying NDA, don't tell anybody and stuff. But it's like that sounds like extortion.
Donald Sterling did them too.
But she's not the one asking for it. She's not the one asking for it. The guy that the women paid $3 million to. It's like, remember when Monica Lewinsky got nailed?
Her friend,
right? It wasn't her. It was her fat friend,
Linda Tripp,
who was a glory hound and wanted to be in the news. Right. So she asked her for the dress, right? In which another controversy, Kim Kardashian wore it and might have stained it. But anyways, did you see that?
No. What is this now?
There was like this big controversy because Kim Kardashian wore that dress. I guess the one that that she wore in. Is it the one where
Clinton.
She sang "Happy Birthday," or the one where that went up in the air when she was standing over that fan
that was
in New York City?
That was Marilyn Monroe's dress, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So she wore it, okay, and I guess she stained it or something, and people were going nuts over that.
No, she ripped it.
Oh, she ripped it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She couldn't fit.
She wasn't fit enough to wear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so, wait a second.
Yeah,
Billy.
So she took the Monica Lewinsky dress.
No, the Marilyn.
Put it over that big ass that she has and it ripped.
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe.
The white dress, yeah.
No, so she tried to wear it and she couldn't get over her big Kardashian ass and it ripped.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So what happened?
That's actually hysterical,
bro. Because she's got a silicone ass. Marilyn was natural.
The dress is not made for fake asses. Right?
But that's not even the stupidest part. The stupidest part is that she was overweight and she needed to lose a stone to get into it, 14 pounds.
Jeez.
And she had to get down to what the dress size was, but the dress sizes used to be different to what they are now. So it's like an old school dress size. So where people say Marilyn Monroe, so here in the UK we say she's a size 14. I think in the US that might be an 8 or something.
Yeah.
But she was actually a lot thinner than that. So she's supposed to be this plus size voluptuous model, but she was never that tall.
Right.
It was just because the sizes were different. So
I saw on Twitter somebody posted that Billy used to date girls that were a size 14s US. Is that true?
Oh, man.
It's all over the place. What? All right. So what we got,
Billy? Hold on, hang on. Can I ask you a question before you get into your story?
Okay.
If you have the information, what's the backstage reaction like to Vince wanting to come out on TV and start the show? When you figured he would have went into hiding. Well, not him, but people would have wanted him to.
Just that it's a very Vince thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm not getting this thing that Sap's reporting where people are appalled by it and they're saying it's tone deaf and whatnot like that. It's almost like expected. It's almost like it's being done where it's being done on purpose, to put it out in front of people's faces.
To draw.
He's not going to be running away.
Bro, he knew that announcing his appearance on the show would raise the number.
And
so all he had to do was walk out there and say hi. That's all. That's it. It's like it didn't matter what he did. He could have cut a promo. Joe, he could have talked. Yes. It didn't matter.
Weren't both first hour numbers up on both shows, SmackDown and Raw?
Considerably.
Yeah.
Considerably.
But the second hour of SmackDown beat Vince's appearance.
Because we'll talk.
Maybe they thought he was going to come back out.
No. Well, let me tell you exactly why. We spoke about this when we did our review. We've been talking about this review, Konnan. When we've been reviewing SmackDown and Raw, and me and Billy did the reviews last week, I pointed out and that they have said. I said, you know what? They've been building this Riddle-Roman matchup pretty good. They're doing a lot of promos, like Riddle's cutting promo, they're building it up, making it seem like a big match. And he came out like we'll talk about when we review the show, but like this week they made it seem like a big match and it drew, which is like, this shows you that the formula worked. You know, they drew a good number on that show and for that match. So, all right, what do we got, Billy?
There's nothing to gamble at the moment but tennis, and this I know. And normally, like this week, I only really did stuff because it would be a dead week otherwise. Because I encourage a lot of people to say, you know, there's going to be a decent amount of stuff going on in June. And I looked at a lot of stuff, and I don't like the MLB at the moment. The NBA's finished. The hockey's a lottery every night. Like, and I'm not getting anything from my guy for the hockey. So I'm like getting my head deep down to the tennis. But originally, like, I didn't want to stake anything at 1 unit. But everything that I've gone high on has won throughout the whole week. And always, this is notoriously the worst week to bet in tennis, is like the week before a Grand Slam. And this week we've like hit so many like top plays.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you really good about next week.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you and Vince, you and Disco, the same question. What did you think about Vince's appearance on both shows?
I thought it was hysterical.
Right.
He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew he would get a pop. It's like he just can't, you know. I mean, it's just, bro. Like, I always, whenever the media is reporting something, okay, and they're anticipating something, and they're predicting, and they're pontificating, and they're guessing what's going to happen, I always say, well, that's probably the opposite's going to happen. Okay, like they thought, like, you know, this like Vince coming out would be like, and then like they thought it'd be a big negative, and it turned out to be a huge positive. And he just, you know, it's the guy knows what he's doing. You know what? Like, honestly, it's like, you know, his personal life got thrown out in the open. It was embarrassing, but Vince McMahon will never ever allow himself to show that he's been embarrassed, which is why he went out and basically just said, "You guys, here I am." Vince, you know, people wanted him. Because the media, the fans, they wanted him to go out and grovel and apologize. You think Vince McMahon would actually do that? He did the exact opposite. Right. And it's like, you know, and the fans popped, which just shows you is like, you know, bro, he's just got these, he has the wrestling audience wrapped around his finger.
Well, here's another thing. Like, here's another way that I looked at it. Do you think that the ratings were higher this week because, you know, the product's been disappointing for a few years? We've been heading down this kind of this route where it's been controlled by PCism, and there's only a certain amount of things that you can do. And what this audience that have tuned out or that view casually thought to themselves is that the real Vince is still in there. Like, this is what we are actually interested in. Because look, not everybody's woke, and not everybody's a snowflake. And some people actually found this story hilarious, and it made them come in. But does that not tell you that if WWE did find a way to find the balance between appeasing their sponsors and doing more risque storylines, because they know that the audience do react to it, and the audience know what Vince McMahon did, and they tuned in big numbers to see what he had to say, there is still an interest where you can pull the trigger on controversy and make money off it, but without isolating your sponsors.
Bischoff's exactly right. He wrote a book, "Controversy Creates Cash," and it's true.
Right,
bro, interest, you got it. But we're in a sea.
That book was written in 2003. It wasn't written during woke times, was it?
We're in a sea of things. We're inundated with information every day on social media, and most of it is very mundane, repetitive, and stuff. Everything. When trigger things happen, when things outside the box happen, we become interested. This Vince McMahon story created interest because it's like, you know, dude, if you haven't been watching wrestling, okay, you're a lapsed fan, you haven't been watching everything, but now you're clicking on.
It was the Trump effect. Did you
right, you're clicking on ESPN. Wait, what's going on, Vince McMahon? You're clicking on CNN. What's going on, Vince McMahon? You're clicking on Fox News. What's going on? It got out of the echo chamber of the wrestling bubble and became mainstream news, which drew some of those lap fans that haven't been watching.
Bro, and you got to think,
Billy, all the other stuff back in.
All those executives, the majority of them, they're feeling what he's going through, because I'm sure they've all had affairs or are having affairs. Very rich men that have very little time or have no game. That's what they do. They just buy. Bro, you know? How many powerful men, you know, bro, at the end of the day, as powerful, as intelligent as you are, you're still a human being, and you succumb to certain emotions, whether you're horny, whether you're jealous, whether you know what I'm saying? At the end, they're still human beings, and they, you know.
And it's human interest in the failings of the failings of the human being.
But I will say this.
Let me just say it. Rupert Murdoch is like getting his 4th divorce. That's like new. That's a Fox News. You know, okay? Bill Gates got divorced. You know, his wife came out and said one of the reasons is because his relationship with Jeff Epstein. Elon Musk has 7 kids. One of his kids is a transgender, just turned 18 years old, and literally is changing his name because he says he does not want to have anything to do with his father. Wants no connect. But these are like things the image we have of celebrities. When you hear stories like this, they're like outside the echo chamber of like the basic that goes on, and you get interested. It generates interest, and it creates, it's controversial. It's like, wait, what's going on here? It just creates interest.
But I want to get back really quick to Billy's question, which, you know, obviously we lived in a different time and we could get away with more in the Attitude Era. And, you know, now there's a lot of we can't do because you have a lot of snowflakes and you got a lot of, you know, PC people running their own agendas. But I think WWE's done a good job after having some horrendous creative years where we had to sit through really bad shows. And they're starting to get better, and they're starting to go back to the old school formula, Billy. You know, bodies, like you saw Theory and Lashley, and the girls are always dressed sexy, and you know what I'm saying? They're kind of going a little bit back to, they're getting into characters like that Max Dupree and all that, you know, little by little. I mean, they had totally gone away from all of that, and they invented it, you know. And I think Vince, the people are always going to love the Emperor. They know he built that place, you know, and Vince has always done a great job of it's everybody against me, whether it was Ted Turner, whether it was the government in the steroid trial, you know. But I think he's kind of on this one because at the end of the day, the people may love him, but he still has stockholders. Yeah,
there's a bunch of law firms right now reaching out to WWE investors about a class action lawsuit, saying that this could have affected, you know, the stock price,
earnings.
And
Oh, please.
I saw that. Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true.
But what we're talking, I want to just real brief before we get into Billy, is me and Konnan. I don't know what you thought of the creative, Billy, but me and Konnan, since we have to, you know, we kind of like review these shows from a, you know, critical, like analytical standpoint.
Yeah, more insider.
Right, and it's like what we've noticed is like the way like they've told the stories, and they've just made some of the characters that were like kind of mediocre. They've made them, a lot of them, more interesting. Sami Zayn far more interesting than he's been in years. Kevin Owens far more interesting. Seth Rollins far more interesting. You know, Edge starting the new faction was interesting. You know, I mean, I'm not into the Omos angle and stuff, everything, but like, you know, the Usos have been interesting. Riddle and Orton have been interesting. Like, just when we would watch the
Roman,
show,
Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes.
Let me give you a perfect example, because I've always been like, and this proves it, how I'm a pretty good gauge of where the ratings are going to go. We've been doing reviews on this show for like 4 or 5 years, right? And WWE programming to review, I would watch the shows. Then I'd be like, I can't watch this. It's terrible. So I watch the shows and fast forward through them. I couldn't even watch the shows and fast forward through them. Then if I have to, I watch the show like I watch the YouTube clips, you know, the 35-minute version and stuff. And I watch that. Then I couldn't even watch that. I'd have to watch the Raw top 10, like the top 10 things in the show, and just read that. But now, as the months have gone by, the past few months, I've gotten back to watching the shows. Because like there's just more interesting stuff on the shows, and the ratings have gone up a little bit.
And they're doing a lot of old school stuff, like the building of the characters, and the tall guys.
And the packages are fantastic. Like
Incredible.
If you watch and get invested, and you actually watch the packages, they catch you up on all the storylines. They make them seem big, and it's just like that. There's, you know, some of their creative is still goofy and stupid. You know, like childish beyond our you know, they're not
like
written for
Asuka.
us. But the effort is there in trying to make the show more interesting, and it's paying off a little bit, you know.
And I'm a big fan. One of my guilty pleasures when they do that interview where they used to do it before, back in the '80s, and remember
on the stage, on the platform.
Yeah. I like when they do interviews there. It just reminds me of the old
so,
school.
So what's your take on their creative, Billy? Like over the past, are you find it more interesting, or you still think you one of these people? Oh, WWE, sucks or whatever. What's your take?
No, I'm not one of these people that think WWE suck. I would have liked AEW to be better because it would have pushed WWE a lot more to be even better than they are, because they're still doing creative at a PG level. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this I put down to the characters. I feel like the character work of individual people. I don't know what the trigger point was, but I've noticed that people are doing better work with their character. They gave Seth Rollins.
What's your take on him? Because I was down on him forever. I'm super high on him.
A terrible storyline for WrestleMania, and he made it work all the way into Mania. Then afterwards with Cody, they also they also gave Edge and Rollins a storyline as well. And I feel going back to the time where Edge went into where Rollins went into Edge's house, I feel that was anticlimactic. I feel at that point he was struggling to find a character. I think that was a big letdown of somebody going into another person's house and they've got a wife and children or whatever. Back in the day when you guys wrestled and that, he'd be in the panties drawer and sniffing her panties and all that kind of stuff. And it really showed the handcuffs that people have on them. So if he can't take those shortcuts, which is easy heat, he has to really, really develop his character. And from that point, he has been better. But that's been the consistent word with a lot of people. And what it does is it highlights the people who are lagging behind, where I don't think there's been much good, decent character work with the likes of Bianca and a few others. But at the same time, there have been people like Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins and Roman and Matt Riddle even, and Randy Orton, who have risen to the occasion. When you look over on the other show, there's a lot of people who aren't finding their characters. They're solely relying on just throwing out a whole bunch of wrestling matches. The irony is that the two best promos of 2022 have come from MJF and came from Christian this week, and they built off the bit that I showed you and Joe last week, where he had a run in with his sister and mum. And I told you, I said they have to air that on television because that was the best thing that they did, and they did air it this week, and he carried on from that. But that's the kind of heat that WWE wouldn't go, where he's talking about Luke Perry being dead. Because, when you talk about dead people, it offends everybody, like it offended you, Glenn. So that's the thing. AEW can take all of these shortcuts, and they're not dictated to by shareholders or sponsors. But their show is so bad with no handcuffs on whatsoever. They still continue to throw out wrestling. They still continue to throw out a bunch of Japanese guys. And I see idiots on Twitter saying that, oh, you're so ignorant, you don't have to have PWI magazine anymore. You should be able to Google it. So in order to enjoy your show, I need to be able, it's my responsibility to have to go on Google and understand why I need to enjoy this. That's not how it works.
Bro, let me explain. Let me just say this. Can you imagine this, Billy, that you're watching a soccer game and they make a substitution and the guy doesn't have a name on his back and nobody explains to you who he is, where he came from, what his past was, just out there playing, but you should Google it. Just Google it and find out who the is. That's exact same thing, and that's what WWE does so well. That's too inside for me, bro. I know who Zack Sabre is because I used him in Tijuana. He's funny guy, incredible wrestler. Okay, good promo. He came out, and you're supposed to know who he is. I mean, okay, there's a lot of hardcores there, but how about the people that are coming to their first wrestling match, or have only been casual fans, or don't watch Japanese wrestling, and not to mention the thousands at home, Yeah. So I mean, that to me, is a big error on their part, huh?
On the other side of that, we have a company like WWE who, even though NXT is their company, they will bring people up with different names and different characters because they feel like there is a disconnect between, or they don't feel the connection is enough. They don't feel that the 600,000 people that watch NXT is enough for them to have to continue going that down direction. We got Butch, we got Max Dupree, we got Gunther. These were not their names in NXT, but WWE, they don't give. They will start over again for the casual audience. They will start again. That's their priority. The priority.
Explain everybody. Okay, if you don't watch NXT, and you're watching this, the guy's been on for a minute and a half to 2 minutes every week, and immediately it's like, this Max Dupree guy's he's kind of obnoxious ass. You know what I'm saying? Because like every time he sits as a promo, he's right at Adam Pearce's face like an annoying, like stuff. And it's like, you watch, it's like, okay, you're getting invested in this guy. You already know this guy's a heel and he's a jerk. You know what I'm saying? But he's had like 6 minutes of airtime altogether.
And we all know somebody like him.
Yeah, right. So it's like, they do a good job of that. Like introducing you to somebody and telling the story. Before we start, I got one question.
In addition to that, what they've done, just one more thing, is they've tuned out the noise. They've tuned out the people that go that there's going to be a percentage of your audience that turn around and go, oh, why is he a manager now? Hell, that's supposed to be Eli Drake. You're wasting Eli Drake. Right. They've shut that out. Like, they don't give a about that audience. Like, they know that these people are going to turn around and go, oh, Max Dupree shouldn't be a manager, or why have you changed Walter to Gunter? And they don't care. Like, they've completely tuned that audience out. They're just going to do their own thing.